Welcome to the Drilling Millions podcast, presented by Sage Dental Partners.
Talking a little bit more about Riverside, what are some of those failures that pushed you to, the great success that sounds like Borat there, the great success. So the immense success that Riverside is.
So, I mean, I have I don't know if it's a pretty standard kind of story, but I came out of residency. I finished training in 2003. Again, I'll be 49 this week. So I came out of residency in 2003. I did a 4-year residency at Downstate Medical Center, Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn, after having finished dental school at NYU. And I started working for 2 of my attendings in the city, but I'm crazy driven, and so that wasn't enough for me, and I took a itinerant job at an oral surgery practice in New Jersey. And I was working there for probably the better part of a year, and he's like, you got to come out here and make you a partner, move your family to New Jersey, we're going to do this together. It was great. And so I actually said to him, okay, that's fine, I want no guaranteed minimum. This is the discussion I had with him. I want no guaranteed minimum. I just want a percentage of what I do. So I'm going to leave this position in the city where they're offering me partnership. I'm going to come to New Jersey. I'm going to raise my family in New Jersey. I'm going to work for you, and then I'm going to be a partner. But I don't want a guarantee. I just want upside. Right? That was what I was looking for. Again, I believe in myself, and I've never wanted anyone to give anything to me. So I mean, that's not bullshit. That's how I really feel. So I did that. I left the city. I worked in New Jersey. I was working there. Within the first couple of years, things were amazing. And then by the year 3, things were starting to be like a little, like, oh yeah, I said that, but whatever. The practice, the internal aspect of the practice had grown substantially. I'm talking about multiples from the time that I started. And I don't know if he got scared or cold feet, or if I wasn't the right guy, or it doesn't matter. But so February of 2007, my daughter was born, my second daughter. I left that practice, and I bought a house in New Jersey, again, all predicated on the fact that I was going to come here and start my life here. And so I moved from New York City to Jersey. I have no full-time position. I'm working itinerant, and not now because I have no really full-time position, 9 different offices. I was working in the Bronx and upstate New York and South Jersey and all over the place. And then I found a space in April of 2007, gut renovated it, and turned it into the first Riverside oral surgery. By the end of the first year, I was booked 5 days. I gave up most, if not all, of my little itinerant positions. The young woman who really kind of is the heart and soul of Riverside Oral Surgery, still with me now, would carry a cell phone and kind of pretend we were in the office and write everything kind of handwritten in the thing. And I was renting space from a friend of mine who's still a referring doctor today. And we built Riverside Oral Surgery over the subsequent years into what it is now, which, we have 10 locations. We have over 100 team members, 15 surgeons, 14 surgeons, and really just continuing to build something that I think is very special.
Wow, incredible. So from 2009 and starting your first, or 2007 and starting your first location to, now where you're up at 10, how did you manage to scale? Because I know that, speaking to other dentists, you can get so stuck in the minutia of your one practice that you never really do any blue sky thinking. So how did you get out of that and grow to 10?
Going from 1 to 2 was probably, it was among the most difficult things to do, because in 1, everything is there. You're able to oversee every single thing and control every detail. I'm a guy who would see like a little piece of paper on the floor, or dust in the vent, or if a miter in the molding is off by a degree, and I'm crazy, right? So when you're in your office, you see that stuff. To be able to take the leap is something that requires some inner strength, let's say. And so what I did was my thesis was that if I could take my practice and find a retiring oral surgeon or a twilighting oral surgeon on the periphery of my zone of influence, right? Having a good reputation where I was getting some refers, but maybe not as many as I could or I couldn't handle. Find that practice, renovate the space, put in new technology, market it appropriately, and find that surgeon that filled the need in that location, all kinds of aspects of it in terms of broader opening offerings, full scope oral surgeon, proper demographics, the whole thing. That I would make sense to do that. So I happened to find the first guy that was going to do that, Sung Hee Cho, who was finishing a head and neck fellowship out of Emory. And I founded the practice, and I wasn't going to buy the practice if I didn't have the new associate. I wasn't going to hire the new associate if I didn't have a practice to put him in. And so the universe worked out, which in many cases it has for me. And we opened in Westwood, which was my second office. That office today will do probably 6x revenue what it did the year before I bought it. And that's in large part due to Sung, to Dr. Cho, also what we do in terms of the patient experience, the marketing, and all of that. And so we were able to build that practice. Then the third practice was a little bit easier, as I saw it, although with the third practice came more challenges. We have now 2 surgeons in there, and we found the right practice for that. And then the fourth practice for me was probably the next largest challenge. That was outside of my zone of influence, as I've called it. It was a place where I had no professional reputation whatsoever. I had an associate that I knew was amazing and worthy and whatever. But the fact is there was a surgeon there who unfortunately got sick and needed an exit strategy. And we provided that for him. And that practice is unbelievably successful now. Unbelievably, it was idle, and now it's I don't know if it's our busiest practice, but it's top 3, let's say. And so that was that. And then once I had the confidence that I could build outside of where I was known, I was able to be much more confident that other practices could come in, could fall into line.
So did you use outside financing, or you self-financed all the practices yourself?
I used commercial financing for every acquisition to this point. So I used, I have no relationship with them, really no relationship anymore, is TD Bank. They did a great job for me. They believed in me. They supported me. Interest rates were low, thankfully. And, access to capital was not a problem, especially if after I proved out time and time again that we were able to be successful. They were more than willing to help. And they were very, very helpful. The problem became that as we got to such scale, everything was cross-collateralized. And, again, you have 10 offices, and we have real risk associated with that, right? So even our cash flow is good, our margins are good, and all of that. At some point, like personal guarantees and this and that, it becomes significantly more burdensome and overwhelming than you'd want it to be, despite your success and despite what you have in terms of your assets. To be able to, our payroll was, thankfully very, very high, is very high on a biweekly basis. It's more than probably many practices earn in a year. Not trying to be, in any way, not boasting, just being real about it.
Oh no, it gives context.
And so that becomes, anxiety producing. And so given what was going on, macro for oral maxillofacial surgery, specialty dentistry in the last year and a half, it was like clear that we had to do something. And so we did, and I'm happy to speak to, what we decided to do, because there was, for many, many years, the dental DSO has been something that has not say taken over dentistry, but it plays a large role in dentistry these days. It has kind of a bad name. People think negatively about DSOs and corporate dentistry and corporate structure in general. I tend to not see it that way. I think like anything in the world, there are DSOs that are negative, and there are DSOs that do what they are supposed to do. Of course, as you put more business into it and people are looking to, improve their EBIT margin and this and that, I mean, you got to be a little bit smarter about things. But by and large, if you're dealing with good people, it's not such a bad thing. If you're dealing with not such great people, it's not going to be a good thing. But I was very clear to every surgeon who worked for me, every referring dentist who worked with me, and my entire team, that I was never going to sell Riverside Oral Surgery to a general dental DSO. I say that with respect. I feel like oral surgery, specialty dentistry is a very different business than general dentistry. The direct to consumer versus B2B models are literally completely different. There is absolutely no, tertiary care kind of concept with hygiene or anything like that. Not that they're tertiary, they're extremely important, but you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
so I do think that it's a completely different business. And as an oral surgeon or specialty dentist selling their practice with this promise of like vertical integration, you're going to get the referring doctors from the general dentist who may or may not know you or like you or even want to refer to you. I think I don't really buy that. So plus I was big enough that I didn't need to do that. So I didn't do that. Then we were approached by some of the larger strategic, national oral surgery practices out there. And we were offered a significant amount from three of those organizations. And I think by and large, there are a couple of players out there in that space that do a very good job. And I think that some of them are just out there aggregating EBITDA without any concept that it should be, an oral surgery practice, right? And so I think that, we went really down the line with two of them very strongly. Neither one of them to me made sense in the end. And then we were like in this place where, well, what are we going to do? Hiring surgeons becomes very, very costly. Again, cost of capital is now going up with interest rates rising. I mean, of course, they just dropped a little bit, but with rising rates, and again, all my personal guarantees, I said, but I really want to build Riverside Oral Surgery. And so I really went out to market, and I did not use a broker. I found really two private equity firms that believed in me, believed in my process, believed in my organization, and were willing to invest in me, allowing me to continue to be the leader of the organization and to be still very heavily invested in the business and build a Northeast focused, New Jersey based oral surgery platform that's designed to be the best oral surgery platform in the nation. And so that's what we decided to do. And so we did take on investors, got rid of the commercial lender, and are now like poised to grow significantly still.
So where do you anticipate you're going to go? I know you can't probably get into the exact specifics, but are you looking to double, triple? Like what scale are you looking at?
I would say I would like to grow the practice 10x from where it is now. I would say relatively short period of time. Yeah. I mean, you understand that. So I started the 15 years ago, I started the practice. It was me and three of my team members, two of whom are still with me. One of whom is still a very, very close friend. Just didn't, she had to move on, which was totally appropriate for her and for us. And I don't see any limit. I've been asked over the years, how many is enough, or how, what is it? There's no such thing. To me, I think if you can do 10, why can't you do 500? Like, so long as you have the systems in place, you have the right people, which is everything. A lot of people talk about people and culture and this and that. That's words are just such bullshit, in my opinion. Like, you actually have to have the right people in the organization who understand delivery of care. I've learned so much over the last couple of years about business structure and org charts and this BS. And like, the fact is that really, we're in the business of delivery of care, right? Now, of course, we are also in the business of, figuring out the best way to make that care efficient and best systems and implementing systems so that you could scale and grow into them. But really, like, bottom line is, you could open a practice next to a Riverside oral surgery. If you do better than I'm doing, the referring doctors are going to see that, right? Doesn't matter how big you get. All the DSOs in the world, they're better equipped because they pay less, economies of scale and all this stuff, and they have the back systems and all this. But realistically, if you are an amazing dentist, you open an exceptional dental practice next to a DSO office, and the patients who are sophisticated, affluent patients right outside New York City see that this practice is there and you do a great job, you're going to take the business. So if I get like sloppy or lazy, or if I start like resting on my laurels because we're big, I lose tomorrow. I'll lose it all. And I look at it like that. I really think that if I don't continue to up my game and raise my bar, then it could all go away in a minute. That's why we continue to do what's best every single time. We add scope, meaning different services, we add technology, we're always updating our offices, our ways of communicating. I'm always hammering into my younger surgeons, like the importance of being transparent and real and a good communicator. And, all of the things that are like important in small business, doesn't matter that you're big. Big means nothing in healthcare in terms of from a patient's perspective. In fact, it's negative from a patient's perspective. So you got to be local in the communities that you serve. Again, I know I'm all over the place with how I'm saying this, but this is how I really feel.
No, I'm inspired. You're gonna Grant Cardone this. You're gonna 10x it. That's unreal. Well, like I've heard it so many times that, you open up 5 Chinese restaurants, or you open up 5 dental practices, or you open up 5 car manufacturers. At the end of the day, you're going to be working like nuts. So why not just set your targets super high? Because you're going to be, pedal to the metal all the way. So, I mean, it's not easy to run a restaurant. No, not knocking anyone that does it, but like, it still requires a hell of a lot of work. But so as you grow, though, one thing that I'm interested in is, how do you keep your finger on the pulse of each practice?
So that becomes, that's also in the people. It's the organization that you build. So again, I know what I do very well. I know what I don't do very well, and it probably comes through in terms of just the way I call. I'm saying like EBIT is bullshit. EBIT is not bullshit. It's extremely important. It speaks to the value of your business, right? It's not bullshit in any way, but it's not something that I'm focused on at all, ever. So I have a COO who is focused on that and is focused on a lot of the operations, the business operations of the business. And then I have a clinical advisory board that is focused on the delivery of care, everything from compliance in terms of the way the care is delivered, to systems that allow that care to be delivered, to the medical directorship falling underneath the clinical advisory board. That clinical advisory board is an autonomous, independent board of doctors who understand what it is to deliver care, both from the medical surgical side and from the patient experience side. Whereas the executive board is focused on, okay, these guys are really amazing in terms of delivering care. How do we make it easier? What systems do we implement? What technology are we purchasing? How do we make this most cost effective? Whatever it is. And if you work together, you have the outcome that you need. I have people who, and again, this becomes more difficult as you scale. I have people within my organization who have risen from, my chair side assistant to a regional director, right? Running 5 offices, speaking each day to the office managers in each one of those offices. So it's really like my DNA, like what I'm trying to put out there. The Riverside way is in these people. They understand it innately now. Well, not innately, but they understand it. And because they understand it, they're able to impart that to those who are working at the local level. I hope that that could continue, right? I mean, like as we get further from our epicenter, I assume that I'm going to be able to, we as a group are going to be able to figure that out. But that's the hardest part about growing a business, right? How do you keep it what it's supposed to be?